So hopefully more people will show up, but we're going to keep it fairly short and quick tonight. It was one of those, we didn't really want to do a meeting right around Easter. We kind of felt, let's let people have the holiday and just be able to enjoy their families and all of that. But so we've had more yard signs go out over the last. Well, I took a bunch on Friday, I think. Um, Literally, whatever day it was that I posted about doing the Zoom meeting, I think it was Friday. I got 3 or 4 just right in a row within an hour.
Yeah,
that
I
we
think
all messaged.
I think the signs themselves, the more you have out there, the more aware the neighborhood is. They just, they're driving around. They go, "Oh, what's going on?" Because there are people that still are not, have no idea.
Well, we had so 2 weeks ago, or I guess it was when we were hauling all that dirt out of our driveway, and loading it up in the dump trailer to take it out to the landfill. Um, Matt Southwick, I don't know if any of you know him, lives up there towards the front. He stopped by, and he's not on Facebook. He doesn't do email, or he barely does email. He saw the original flyer, but kind of just filed it away. But he was out on a bike ride and stopped by while we were outside working. I talked to him for probably, I don't know, 20 or 30 minutes. And he was like, "Oh, no, I'd put one of the signs up." So I took him 4 or 5 of them, plus we put one in his yard, and he had them all out with neighbors right there around him within a couple of hours. I mean, it was pretty quick. And so the reason I bring that up is I know that there are people who are out there who are not, um, they're still not aware of what's going on, and that's kind of the big trick.
I think also, though, you're going to find, Brandon, there's people that really really don't want the HOA board. It's a big hassle to even deal with them. They just don't want to advertise it. That's the problem.
We know of several of that. In fact,
you just don't want to.
Two or three neighbors we've got here where that is exactly the case.
Our daughter's that way. She lives behind one of the board members, and they're in the same area. They don't want to cause a problem, although they don't want the board. They want to get rid of it. So,
well, and that's the thing.
You'll find that.
If I kind of figure, I've had direct contact with pretty close to 200 homeowners that I've spoken with, either online, through chat, or directly in person, or email. And so I'm kind of figuring, if we've got 200, we probably actually have 300, because of all the people who don't want. I can think of 2 people on our block that don't want to put a sign up. They don't want to really cause any issue with that, but they definitely want to see the HOA go away. One of them is because of, he runs a business and he doesn't want that to affect his business. So,
right.
So that's always that trick, right? We've got to make sure we can account for enough votes to call the special meeting, and be able to, because that special meeting will happen within a certain defined time window. It has to happen within 30 days. We want to make sure we have enough votes to get the meeting, get it on a ballot, and then be able to have that go around the neighborhood, just like the fence amendment or any of those things. But that's really the thing where we're concentrating our efforts right now. Is we're working on a few different little projects on how do we reach people, and how do we just put it out there so that people can make the decision on their own with some education. I know Selena was here last time. We're working with Chuck Wood, and we've got Rhonda Sundquist is going to take part in it. John and I are going to obviously take part in it, even though we're the ones producing the videos. But we're going to do these short little. We want to keep them to 2 to 3 minutes max. HOA horror story videos. The Sundquists, with painting their house, they had such a nightmare with that. And I think that, as we've talked with more and more homeowners, people just weren't aware that even happened. And their answer always is, well, that's not okay. And yes, we agree that it's not okay. But how many people in the neighborhood don't even realize that this kind of stuff goes on? So that's the goal. If we keep it to 2 to 3 minute videos, basically, hey, you've had a problem with the HOA, tell your story. and then we can throw them on YouTube and link them over to, Facebook and the various other sources and things like that. I know one thing that we've done, Norm, since I last talked to you, we've actually got a MailChimp account, which MailChimp allows us to develop our own newsletter email list. And that allows us to send out emails like, oh, hey, we have yard signs and we're having a Zoom meeting on this day. And it's just another medium to help reach people. It's something that we would have done, like if we were doing an actual website for the HOA, went back when John and I offered that. MailChimp is another one of those types of things that we would have used to allow, better communication between everyone in the neighborhood. And I think that's, we're just trying to hedge our bets and make sure we get as much outreach as possible. We're probably also going to do a second flyer. It'll be much simpler than the first one. Probably, I don't even think there'll be any graphics on it. But we'll try and do something, where we can just, again, do one more flyer campaign door to door and just let people know. That way that there's some conversation as to, hey, if they didn't pay attention to what the first one was and just threw it away or whatever it is, it's like, okay, wait a minute. That's what this is. That's what all these signs are. So we'll try and do that as well. But we're kind of at that point where we really have to depend on everybody to kind of talk to their own neighbors. And I know, that's one of the things, right, that takes time, because it's, we're still in a pandemic at the moment. People are starting to relax their own, personal preference of interacting with neighbors and stuff, but we're still in this, right? And this all hit at the kind of the wrong time. It's one of those, if it wasn't for COVID, everybody would feel comfortable going and pounding on a door and sitting there for 5 minutes waiting and chatting and stuff at every single house, and making contact with every single home. And I think that we're getting closer to that. But it is still a work in progress. We've, tried to catch people as they go by, on the street, stuff like that too. If it's somebody that I see on a regular basis out walking, hey, what's up? And usually if I'm outside the house here, they'll actually make a comment as to, oh, hey, what's up with the HOA? Or I've had people from outside our neighborhood literally like, I wish you guys would come get rid of our HOA too. It just, that kind of stuff just makes me laugh a little bit. But so those are kind of our big things that we're working on still. It's always a challenge, around when we have a holiday, because everybody wants to, everybody's like, oh, when are we having another meeting? And it's like, great, but we want to be respectful of everybody's time as well. I did talk with one of the board members maybe a week and a half ago, and kind of asked, where are we sitting with regards to that rewrite process, trying to just get some sort of a timeline. And the answer that I got was, they're still going through feedback. They have not even submitted, what changes they think need to be made back to the attorney to get a rewrite done, and then contact back to us with the first revision. And I kind of asked them, like, well, how much time is being dedicated to this? And they're only dedicating about 3 or 4 hours a month. So not much more than the standard meeting length. They're, maybe adding an hour here or there for that is all. So this process is gonna be a while. That being said, I've talked with a couple other people who've helped out over the course of this. John Hundley was one of them. And the response is, I still think we need to strike while the iron's hot. And so that's where we're trying to, to get all of this stuff kind of pushed through as fast as we can on our side. We want to make sure that we get, another flyer done. And I'm trying to make that worded a little bit less accusatory, so to speak, I guess, of the HOA, but letting people know that, hey, there's a real reason for this change. Um, Other than that, those have been our kind of our big things, is the, doing the flyer, doing, the emails, which we've got, I want to say there's probably about 30 people on the email list thus far. It's not a big number, but each one, that most of the people that are on the email list are not on Facebook or not on Nextdoor. So they're people that we are reaching separately. Um, and then doing the videos that we're working on. The reason I was harassing Chuck Wood about it is because Chuck does podcasts, and so he's got a lot of the ability to help word stuff and make that work real well. But that's kind of where we're at with that. So I had dropped off a sign to one of our neighbors over here directly behind us maybe 2 weeks ago, and the other day got a direct message from him in Nextdoor, and he had been reached out to from his real estate agent. That agent actually has a client who wants to buy a home in Jordan Willows, wants to move to this neighborhood, and the agent had seen the yard signs and banners and stuff floating around, and was kind of just questioning, okay, well, what's going to happen here. And so he reached out to me. I was like, yeah, go ahead and put me in touch with the agent, I'll talk to him. So she reached back out to me, and her big concern was, we didn't want to, she didn't want to have her clients move into Jordan Willows if it was going to end up in a daybreak level lawsuit over the HOA. And I assured her that no, that's not the case. We have force of numbers behind this, and that's our goal, is to do it the right way through the process without having to drag this into some court someplace and try and prove a bunch of arbitrary, feelings or any of that stuff. So, but I certainly assured her, that it was one of those, it's not going to affect, the general feel of the neighborhood. It's not going to, affect any of that. And, as far as anything else, I left it up to her, and she pretty much said that she's had quite a few people that would love to move into a neighborhood like this. They just don't want an HOA. They would not even consider our HOA because it was an HOA. That again, this is now the third realtor that I've heard this from. This is probably the fifth person I've heard this from in the real estate profession, who's came to me and said, your homes would be more valuable and even more desirable than they are if you didn't have the HOA, which is pretty huge. And I think that that's kind of one of those things that makes me go, okay, we're doing this for the right reasons. And I think that that's kind of where we're at with it. At this point, we're just working on all of that stuff. I would love to get more people to come to the Zoom meetings, but of course, trying to schedule that is always a challenge for everyone, with families and karate nights and judo and church and family home evening, and it always makes it a challenge trying to get everybody on board to be on a single night. So that's why we try to vary it. One week it'll be a Monday, the next week it might be a Thursday, something like that, just kind of spread them out a little bit. But other than that, we've, like I say, we've talked with Norm. I know you hadn't heard this, but we had your neighbor, Levi, who's Lehigh City Code Enforcement. I've had some pretty good conversations with him over the HOA itself, and he is very adamant that there's a lot of stuff that the HOA wanted to do that wouldn't pass muster as far as Lehigh City, like mentioning anything with regards to parking, and that's all Lehigh City. And he's like, they can't even legally do that. My main reason was, it was funny because I had reached out to Lehigh City code enforcement, not realizing it was Levi who does it, and was just wanting to see if I could get somebody who could look at our current CCNRs, their proposed CCNRs, and then compare them to Lehigh City codes and see where we were lacking a code for some reason. And when he called me back, he's like, "Hey, it's Levi." Took me a minute, and then I was like, "Oh, okay." And we had a 45-minute conversation. So, you know, he's a phenomenal guy.
Yeah, that's a new position for him within the last couple of months, 2-3 months.
That's kind of what he said, and he said that there is no easy way to really, you know, take and go, okay, put in the, you know, scan in the CCNRs and then let's look and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm not sure how thrilled he is to be involved in this anyway. You know, he was the K9 officer.
Correct.
But circumstances changed with, you know, him personally, so they had to put him with code. And I don't know if he's really happy with that, but he's a good resource, though.
He's a great resource, and he's flat out told me call him anytime.
Yeah,
you know, or stop by. He's a really good guy.
He is a good guy.
And so, you know, we've talked with him, you know, and we've just kind of looked at, you know, he brought up some good points, which was, you know, look at the types of enforcement that are available depending on the rule. So with the CCNRs, there's two different kinds of enforcement. There's selective enforcement, which certain rules are read to where it can be a selective enforcement, or there's the blanket enforcement. Blanket enforcement is nobody can paint their house in the HOA without approval. Selective enforcement would be you can only, if your house is this color and you're painting it a similar color, you know, as long as it falls within this palette, you don't require approval, but otherwise then you require approval. And so he explained a lot about that, you know, and there was just a lot of different stuff that, you know, we talked about, stuff that was really, you know, pretty mundane, but, you know, it's stuff that with talking about all of these different CCNRs and all of the changes, it's all items that it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, you know. And he was another one that was able to literally say flat out, you know, part of the reason why the HOA itself, why some of what, you know, what we need to just get rid of is that even if we were to try and look at Chris Condi's proposal of, hey, let's get rid of the punitive effects of the HOA and only make it like a community service HOA, as long as we remain an HOA with the current corporation, we have to have the lien, we have to have the foreclosure, we have to have all of those different rules included. And it sucks because there's just no way to eliminate those things. And so, you know, and I've had some other questions asked from, you know, a few other people, such as, you know, what will be in place, you know, when we disband? And it's like, well, part of all of this is abolishing the existing CCNRs. And then we're just not going to put any CCNRs back in. We'll just let Lehigh City codes take over because they already overrule in most places anyways. And then the other question I've gotten asked a couple times was, well, what about the contract with Parker Brown? Well, the contract with Parker Brown ends in another month or so. And then we're on like a month to month with them. I know Stan Rasmussen just met with Parker Brown in the last couple of weeks and is really trying to help at least clarify some of the stuff with them. But it's an uphill fight for sure as far as that. And so that kind of stuff is, you know, where we're, you know, trying to make sure that we're getting these conversations out there. And I know that Stan posts a lot on Facebook, but not everybody even sees that. And let's face it, the HOA has been awful as far as communication wise. Supposedly Parker Brown sent out an email a couple of weeks ago about something. We have not seen it. So, you know, once again, it's one of those things that it's like, well, if you're not sharing that information, if you're not sending a mailer or a flyer, not everybody's going to see it.
Yeah, I don't know why you didn't get it. I got it and kind of made me a little tiffed a little bit. The way they approach things, Parker Brown, is it's punitive, and it's almost as if you're treated as a child. One of the things that was said, I'll see if I can get the email to you. It's spring is around the corner. Summer's going to be coming. Be sure you take care of your lawns and your. As a homeowner, I don't need to be told what to do with my property. I know there's people in the neighborhood that feel that, well, if somebody doesn't enforce it, my neighbor's not going to take care of his yard. I don't think that's really true. There might be one in the neighborhood. I don't know, some idiot that doesn't know what he's doing. But for the most part, people own property for a reason, and they don't need to be treated like a little kid. I'll make sure you get the email if I still have it.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I would be
It's just
interested.
aggravating. It's just aggravating to even deal with it. I'm just tired of it.
No, and I think, and that seems to be pretty much everybody across the board it feels that way. And I think that, there's been a few people who've tried to, like, if you've noticed some of the conversations on Facebook, there's somebody who lives not far down from you, Norm, Stephen Butt, who made a comment about, well, if you want to see what it looks like when Lehigh City does this, look at the there's that house as you go out the back of the neighborhood on the corner of Saratoga Road. Well, I just immediately went, okay, I'm going to find out. So I went and looked. That house was built in the 1930s or 1940s. It's been the same family the entire time. They have actually done a lot of cleanup on that lot.
Yeah, there's a little history behind that. Do you know who lives across the street? And that nice,
the white picket house. Yeah.
It's a relative.
Yep.
It's a close relative.
Oh,
they
yeah.
don't, and they, just so you know, they don't get along. And that may be part of the problem. I don't know.
I wonder.
I'm just reading, but they don't get along at all.
Because the property behind the trashy house is owned by the same people who own the white picket fence.
Yep.
And then the house further to the north on 2300 is owned by a relative of the ones at the trashy house.
Yeah, there's a history back in there. You have to been in the neighborhood long enough to know some of that.
That's the thing is it's, okay, A, that's not in our neighborhood, so why are you even worried about it? B, why even try and dredge that up when you don't know the history of the property and what's going on? That house was there before there was pavement on 2300.
Yeah.
It was a dirt road.
A long time.
So, they were, it wasn't until, from what I remember reading through the records, sometime in the mid to late 80s or early 90s that they were actually annexed into the city of Lehigh. Before that, they were unincorporated Utah County.
Yeah, the city did come in and have him put up that fence because it was kind of trashy back there. So there is a history with the city. I guess people were complaining and they made him put up that fence to hide some of that property. So, the city does do things.
Well, that's it, so I threw that back out along with a couple other people, came to the defense on that as well. And then all of a sudden that person who's posting that just shut up and disappeared. And it's like, there's a few people who just seem to revel in the fact that the HOA exists to protect my home values, and they're so sold on the lie that there's just no way there's no coming back from it. You could tell them everything on earth and show them facts and figures and all of this, and they go and they Google search, why is it beneficial to keep an HOA? Take a screenshot of the Google answer, not even like an actual website or study, just the Google answer, and then go, see, here's what Google says. That's not a study. That's not a fact. So some of what we're fighting is some of the misinformation too. But I feel like we're in a good place. And I think that, just getting another flyer out, getting some of these little videos out, I think that's going to help a lot. And as it's been nicer now, and we can start doing some more of the direct contact, door to door talking and stuff with our neighbors, that's going to help a lot. I know that as far as John and I's block right here, everybody pretty much is on board with getting rid of the HOA. Not everybody has a yard sign, and again, that one of our neighbors down this, he's like, no, I don't want a yard sign. We've got 5 of them on our block. I'm not worried about it. Okay, that's fine too, but I've had one other person who was wanting to do an ACC application over on the phase 1 of the neighborhood, and was just like, as soon as I get my approval, then I'll put the sign up. Kind of like, I don't want to jinx myself. And so there's that part of things too. So yeah, I think we're in a good spot, really. Selena, did you have any comments, feedback, questions?
Yeah. Do you know did the board have any idea when the annual meeting is supposed to be?
They have not announced it yet. I don't believe it's even scheduled as of yet.
I was wondering. Also, on Zillow, I looked up today, my house went up $14,000 in the last week on Zillow. And I'm like, I don't need somebody to tell me what to do with my house.
Exactly. Well, and we've noticed over the last, I don't know, I mean, it's just been an exponential growth with ours. We keep looking at Zillow and we're like, wait a minute. And Zillow's always low, right? Zillow's, given the value of the homes in the neighborhood, is about 10 to 15% low.
Right.
So, with our house, it's like Zillow's always about 50 grand under what we probably could ask for it.
Yeah. So I'm just like,
it's pretty awesome. I'm excited with that.
I was shocked, but I was like, I don't need you. And then the Stan email with the Parker Brown thing and the edging your grass. I was like,
again,
where does it say that we have to edge our lawns?
I was actually trying to find that the other day, because there's even some of the things that they commented on from the Parker Brown stuff, whereas I was thinking about it, I'm like, no, I don't even recall that they can say that you have to mow it to a certain thickness, or that you have to, you have to get approval on the current CCNRs, that you have to have approval to plant a bush or plant a tree or plant a flower. So I'm kind of like, no, because as part of what John and I just did out front of our house here, we scooped out all that old dirt. But part of that was also, we had that huge cactus bed, with all of the cactus. Yeah. We wanted to bring the level of that bed up with it's called Frame It All. It's a recycled plastic material that just makes it a raised bed. Yeah. And I got a message from someone who was like, you should ACC that. And I'm going, it's the same bed, the same dimensions. Why do we need to ACC that?
If you hit careful, mommy. You want to see you, mommy.
Just a minute, honey, thanks.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's the numbers, I think, are, the more and more people realize that the value just keeps going up, is going to be beneficial.
Right. Yeah, and I was wondering if, like, on the flyer, if we could put like how much we actually pay Parker Brown, because I think people will be surprised that we paid them $18,000.
I actually was thinking about doing exactly that. Basically, say our revenue is this. We pay this to Parker Brown. That doesn't leave a whole lot of money for us as a neighborhood to use.
Right. Can I have a man?
So yeah. I bet, because I think people would be surprised if they knew that that's how much we paid for them.
It's not only that. You'd be surprised how much they have. They're paying the lawyer for legal fees.
They paid $4,500
Not cheap.
And we were told during the town hall meeting that the $4,500 was a flat fee, right? John and I then at one time were talking with Stan uh, over at his house, and he was like, "Oh, well, we've just about tapped out the number of hours, that they kind of planned for, so they're probably going to want more money." And we're like, "Mm-hmm, yeah, exactly. So we're going to spend 10 grand on this, not get anywhere, and then have just lost all that money." It's just kind of a little ridiculous. But it's you look at not many people know that we have the colonial flag contract, for the flagpoles out front. We talked with Chris Condi about that and found out, because we weren't here when all that happened, but the flagpoles that are up in the monument, we are responsible for the flagpoles and the flags, just not the rest of the property. And apparently those flagpoles were, one of them was the Fieldstone flagpole and the other one was DR Horton, I believe. And basically they got donated to the HOA. Well, that's great, but we're the ones responsible for the flags on those. So we have, according to what I've been told by Michelle Wallace and by Stan has confirmed it, we have like a $3,500 a year expense for the flags.
That's correct, and it's been there a long time. They change out the flags every once in a while, but you still have to pay that contract. It's there, and it's going to be there for a long time.
It's ridiculous. $3,500 a year. Holy cow! I could do a hell of a lot with that for flags. I mean, let's face it, that's insane. And then somebody from the neighborhood has to go and actually use the keys and raise and lower the flag when that's a part appropriate too.
And with the flag contract as well, Brandon and I have been here in the neighborhood since late 2015. We only found out about that flag contract in the last 4 months. It has never once been disclosed as an expense in the annual budget at the annual meeting. Never once.
Serious. I know you're looking befuddled, Norm. Go back and look at the budgets that they gave us each and every year for the last. I've got budgets back for as far as 2012, and they do not list any expenses of the flags. The only thing most of the last 15 or since 2015, I think 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19 for sure, they literally just said in the thing, we take in about this much each month. We spend about this each month. You take in all of the dues early in the year, right? So you should take everything in January and then be, spending whatever you're paying monthly, if you're paying monthly to Parker Brown or your whatever management company, or if you're paying annually, then you write the check for the annual and you're done. That should all be detailed in our budgets. It's not.
I wasn't aware of that. I thought it was. I was on the board, I think, 2008 or 9, somewhere in there. I remember the contract. I thought it was spelled out, but
it hasn't been since we've been here. It's kind of like we had no idea. So we got more detail from, I think, Chris Condi on the bond, the Comcast bond.
That was one I never understood at all.
So we were apparently
Never.
actually paid the full dollar amount of that $100,000 by Comcast at that time. And then the HOA said, well, we don't need all this money sitting around cash. So then they invested it in bonds themselves to get the money back, each year. So the board, whoever it was at the time that did that, and it might have been Chris Connie, might have been part of that, I don't remember. But it was a 15-year bond, which matures fully in 2028. And so I'm kind of like, so we got all this money and then we can't touch it? That's a little screwed.
Yeah.
It was not good management, I don't think. I mean, I can understand why somebody would do it, but it's just wasn't well thought out. But that's never been something there's been twice and 2 annual meetings that's been actually mentioned at when John and I have lived here. And it's brought up as we have this bond, the Comcast money. And of course, the way it was explained, the one time it was ever explained to us during one of the annual meetings was, oh, well, Comcast issued the bond and is paying us over that period of time, which is not accurate. I mean, we just found this one out in the last maybe month and a half, that's actually how it was broke down. So that's a little concerning that, again, there's this big kitty of money out there and it's not being disclosed down to the penny what's in what and what. Honestly, when we get our budgets, because we're a nonprofit, theoretically every penny should be accounted for. We should know we spent $363.21 on postage, and we spent office supplies this, and I mean we should get an actual budget. But it seems like the people who've been doing the board for at least as long as we've lived here, there's been this just throw together a spreadsheet on Excel and call it good, which makes you wonder, is that what they're submitting to the state when they file their annual report with the Secretary of State's office? Or is the state actually getting a completely different report than what we're getting? I don't know. But these are all things that make you go, well, why aren't you telling us these things? Why are these things not being shared on an annual, why we're all members of this, we all own a share of this HOA. Why are we not being told what's happening with our money? And I think that's one of the things that we have to be able to use to talk with our neighbors and say, why are we not getting this?
I think when they had the annual meeting, it's been a long time ago. I can't remember exactly, but I thought that they projected everything up on the screen.
Not since we've been here.
I can't remember.
Since we've been
But
here.
even then, but you're right. It probably wouldn't have been broken down.
And that's the thing. It's not that.
So I don't know.
It's not that hard. I mean, I've tracked every dollar that we've brought in donations from people, and every dollar that we've spent as far as, with this process, the Disband the HOA process. But it's just one of those things. I think that's kind of where we're at. It's just getting people to understand all of this stuff. And I think that's kind of where we're at with it. So going forward, that's kind of where we're going to focus on doing those videos and doing another flyer for the immediate future. And then, we'll kind of reassess where we're at, people, number of people wise, and then we'll go ahead and work on getting that 30% and force the HOA to call a meeting, because at this point we have no idea when the annual meeting is going to be. Supposedly it has to happen by June. That's by I think the second Wednesday in June or something like that. So, there's still time, and they have to announce it at least 30 days in advance by law. So hopefully we'll be getting something soon, I would think, but we'll find out. Anyways, I think that's kind of it for tonight as far as, all of that. I don't know if anybody else had any other questions or feedback or comments or so. We'll try and run a meeting sometime, I would say late next week sometime, and see where we're at then. And then, I'll just keep on working on getting the flyers out and getting those videos done and go from there. So if you come up with any ideas, questions, catch me on Facebook or come stop by the house or whatever, and we'll chat.
I appreciate you guys working on that. I do very much.
We're happy to do it.
Alrighty.
So
just so you know, we refinanced our house again. This is twice in the last year and a half, I guess, maybe. And our houses keep going up. Like you said, it keeps going up and up.
Oh, it
So-
makes you excited to see.
In fact, we had the lender call us, which is unusual, saying, well, I know that people are going to be talking to you about refinancing because the interest rates are a little low right now and your property value went up. So we would like to keep you. So kind of nice.
That makes you happy for sure.
Makes me happy.
So
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for the work.
yeah,
Appreciate
no
it.
worries. Like I say, we're happy to do it.
Okay.
So I want to thank you guys for, for being here and all you guys' help as well. I mean, every bit helps. So,
Right.
but yeah, I'll let you know when the next Zoom's going to be and we'll get it on the schedule and try and give everybody a good heads up and go from there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So,
All right, thank you so much, Brandon and John.
yeah, thank you, Selena. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.